The old man paused at the entrance of the bank as the glass doors slid shut behind him. For a moment, he stood still, as if gathering strength, not just in his legs, but in his memories. The smell of polished marble and air-conditioned air felt unfamiliar, yet deeply personal. This place had changed, but at its core, it was still the same institution he remembered from decades ago. Or at least, it was supposed to be. He adjusted the worn collar of his coat. It wasn't expensive. It never had been. He had never cared much for appearances. His shoes carried the dust of long walks and longer years, their leather cracked but clean. In his right hand, he held a folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, creased carefully as if it were something alive. The bank was busy but orderly. Soft instrumental music played from hidden speakers. Tellers typed quickly, smiles switching on and off depending on who stood in front of them. A young man in a tailored suit leaned confidently against a counter, tapping his watch impatiently. A woman nearby scrolled through her phone, her designer bag resting at her feet. No one looked at the old man. He walked slowly toward the nearest counter, each step deliberate. When he finally reached it, he waited politely. The teller finished typing, glanced up, and immediately looked back down. "Next," she said flatly. "Yes, miss," the old man said. His voice was steady, soft but clear. "I'd like to access my account." The teller sighed, her eyes flicking to his coat, his shoes, the lines on his face. "Do you have an appointment?" "No," he replied. "I didn't think I'd need one." "Well, you do," she said, already turning back to her screen. "We're prioritizing clients today." "I understand," he said gently. "But I've waited a long time to come here." Something in his tone made her look up again, this time with irritation. She glanced at the line forming behind him, people who looked important, people who looked like money. "Sir, you'll need to step aside." He hesitated for a second, then nodded and took a small step back. He didn't protest. He didn't argue. He just waited. Behind him, whispers started. "Is he lost?" someone muttered. "Probably wants change for a check," another said. A man in a sharp blazer smirked. "They really let anyone walk in here?" The old man pretended not to hear, though every word landed heavier than the last. He unfolded the paper slightly, then folded it again, as if reassuring himself that it was still there. Minutes passed. The teller finished helping the man in the suit, laughing politely at something he said. She called the next person, someone who had arrived after the old man. He cleared his throat softly. "Excuse me," he said. She didn't look up. "Sir, I already told you." "I just need a moment," he said. "I believe there's been a misunderstanding." She finally looked at him fully, her expression sharp. "Sir, do you even have an account with this bank?" The question wasn't curious. It was dismissive. The old man smiled faintly. "I should," he said. "I helped build it." The laughter came instantly. Not loud, but cruel enough. A few people smiled openly now, entertained by what they assumed was a confused old man telling stories. The teller shook her head. "That's enough," she said. "If you don't have proper documentation, I'll need to ask you to leave." He nodded again, his calm unwavering. "I do have documentation," he said, lifting the folded paper slightly. "If you'd like to see it." She didn't reach for it. Instead, she pressed a button under the counter. "Security," she said quietly. At that moment, a man in a charcoal suit walked past the counter, reviewing something on a tablet. He stopped mid-step. Something about the old man's posture, or perhaps his face, caught his attention. The manager looked again, more carefully this time. He approached slowly. "Sir," he said, his voice polite but curious, "may I ask your name?" The old man told him. The manager froze. For a brief second, the world seemed to tilt. The manager's eyes widened, his mouth opening slightly before closing again. He looked at the old man's face as if he were staring at a photograph come to life. "May I see that paper?" the manager asked quietly. The teller hesitated, then slid it across the counter. The manager unfolded it with care, reading every line. His hands began to tremble. This wasn't a deposit slip. It wasn't even modern paperwork. It was an original authorization document, handwritten, officially sealed, signed by names the manager had only seen framed on the wall of the boardroom. Names spoken with reverence. Names that built empires. The manager looked up, his voice barely steady. "Close your station," he said to the teller. "What?" she asked, confused. "Now." The room went silent. He turned to the security guard who had just arrived. "Stand down," he said. Then he addressed the entire bank. "Everyone, please step away from the counters." People obeyed without understanding why. The manager faced the old man and bowed his head slightly. "Welcome back," he said. The words carried weight. "Open the vault," the manager said. Gasps rippled through the room. The vault hadn't been opened in years, not like this. The massive steel doors moved slowly, echoing through the bank like thunder. Inside were shelves of documents, sealed boxes, and accounts untouched for decades. The manager retrieved a file and opened it. The numbers were staggering. The old man had been a silent partner, one of the earliest investors, a man who believed in the idea before it was profitable, before it was respected. While others chased recognition, he walked away quietly, leaving his investment to grow on its own. Compound interest had done what time always does, it multiplies. The teller's face drained of color as she realized the truth. The laughter died instantly. The whispers vanished. "This man," the manager said, turning to the teller, "owns a larger stake in this institution than anyone currently employed here." The old man raised a hand gently. "That won't be necessary," he said. He looked around the room, his eyes calm, reflective. "I didn't come here to prove anything," he said. "I came to see if this place still remembered what it stood for." He paused, then continued. "A bank is built on trust. Not appearances. Not assumptions." He folded the paper one last time. "I'll be closing my account." The manager's breath caught. "Sir." The old man smiled kindly. "It's time." He turned toward the exit, walking slowly but surely. No one stopped him. No one spoke. As the doors closed behind him, the bank felt emptier than it ever had. Not because money had left, but because respect had.